You're listening to For the Republic, a love letter to Star Wars animation.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to For the Republic, a love letter to Star Wars animation. It is I, Andrew and Donovan, back here once again, and we are continuing on with our Skeleton Crew catch-up episodes. If you missed our last episode, we talked about episode 3 and 4 of Skeleton Crew. Today, we're going to be talking about episodes 5 and 6, titled You Have a Lot to Learn About Pirates and Zero Friends Again. This is also our first episode we've recorded after the finale has aired. So we got some answers to some things. We'll save most of that discussion for our actual episode on the finale, but I cannot wait. I cannot wait. All I'll say for now, give us a season 2. Just please. Just please give us a season 2.
Somebody here needs a season 2. Come on.
Yes. I got Neil showed up for me a couple days ago, so I now have the whole cast, and I'm just like, I need it. I got Neil and I got my vintage collection of Jod. So I have the whole crew now. So
that's awesome.
Very, very excited.
Got like two different shows here. Like got still indulging my Jackie Jam stuff here with Jackie, and also we got Neil Nation. And of course, just to like keep myself on brand here, someone else wants to say hi.
Oh, it's Hu Yang.
Yeah,
there he is. There he is.
I just stopped by from making lightsabers to say hi.
Just very on brand for the show. Very on brand. We are also recording this on Monday. So for everyone in the States, happy Martin Luther King Day, and nothing else. Nothing else happened today.
That's the only person we are celebrating today, aside from Tom Baker, of course. Happy birthday to Tom Baker, aka the Doctor, aka the Bendu. What an awesome pair of roles to be credited for. Mm-hmm. But
only it's going to be a rough 4 years, but we're not going to go down without a fight.
My sympathies, buddy.
It's going to be rough.
The rebellion is reborn today.
Fight the Empire. Indeed. Thank God Andor Season 2 is coming in a couple months, because it's going to be very timely. It's going to be very timely. But you know what else is timely? It's a little segment we like to do on the show called the Jedi Archives.
Possible. Perhaps the archives are incomplete.
So if you're new here, this is our Star Wars Hall of Fame segment, essentially. What we do is we each nominate something Star Wars related to be put up in our Jedi Archives, and we put it to a vote on our social medias. That means you, that's right, you, the listeners, can choose what goes in every week. Last week, we had ourselves a bit of a barn burner. I put up Mick Giacchino's score for Skeleton Crew. Donovan put up SM33, and it was a close one. But at the end of the day, SM33 is our newest inductee into the Jedi Archives. Shout out Nick.
That's very nice.
Being just the best droid. Don, I'm going to leave you to start things off, because you have our most recent winner. So what are you nominating this week?
So I've had a few different contenders, and there's one particular one that I wanted to nominate, but I think I'll save that for the next episode, given how it's a lot more relevant to the finale. So my nomination for this week is going to be Padme, because one little report that has seemed to have just to counterbalance all of the negativity, shall we say, that has been going around today, is a report saying that Natalie Portman is potentially coming back to play Padme in the second series of Ahsoka, which, holy shit, I never thought I would hear that. Please. That's crazy.
Please.
I mean, that's crazy. I mean, I'm already doing cartwheels in my mind over the thought that Ewan McGregor is going to come back for the second series of Ahsoka to play Obi-Wan. We actually might see Ewan in the Clone Wars armor. We might actually see Obi-Wan and Anakin post Vader, reunited, bridges mended, and getting to see those characters with Ahsoka, whether that's Rosario or Ariana Greenblatt. That's a really cool thing. And we're so overdue seeing Natalie again as Padme, because she's often felt so like an unsung hero in a way, despite being one of the 3 leads of the prequels. Especially given how much at the time the online fan sect tended to rag on her and Hayden Christensen's acting, and since then she has just gone from strength to strength. She won the Oscar for Black Swan. She's done all these different interesting film roles. I thought she was terrific in Annihilation, personally. And obviously
great.
Obviously, great getting to see her finally to be a Lady Thor in Thor: Love and Thunder as well. And so the whole time when we've been seeing that kind of stuff unfold, we've all just been as Star Wars fans, just been like, yeah, is there no way she can just come back and play Padme? And we might actually get that now. And so that's why Padme's my nomination for this week's Archives.
So I've lost. Because I knew going into this that I was going to have the dumbest nomination known to mankind.
Oh my God.
But I am picking it. I am nominating Slapball to
That is great. I'm so sorry.
I don't know why. I have just been entranced by every time Neil brings it up in Skeleton Crew, but I just it's such a Star Wars name too. It just
is.
Just reminds
it was a
me
Legends
of
thing, right?
I think it was. I think it was. But just reminding me of schoolyard sports and stuff and games you used to play, and then just that little scene at the beginning of episode 7 where they're all just playing it on the Onyx Cinder. And just, I don't know. I just love that line. You have Warriors on that at, and we have this game called Slapball. And I'm just like, you know what? That's my pick. So I think it was Star Wars Explained made a joke about, I wonder if in the finale Neil's just going to beat Jod by challenging him to a game of Slapball. And I'm just like, you know what? We need that in season 2. We just really need whatever the villain of the week is. And Neil's just like, I got an idea. So that is.
It's not that far removed from someone challenging another character by calling unclaimsies on something.
Exactly. It's got the childhood whimsy that this show has just been masterful with, and I don't know. I just love the delivery every time Neil brings it up. So that's my nomination this week. It's gonna lose. Maybe the worst loss in the history of this show. But
this is why we should run our nominations by each other before we start the episode.
I think it's funnier if we don't. So those are our nominees this week. Head on over to our social medias. We'll post a link shortly after this episode drops, and you can vote on the poll between Padme Amidala, who hopefully will be coming back soon, and Slapball. So just, vote wisely. But just to touch base on yours real quick, if we do get that, because I've seen the reports of Ewan might be coming back for Ahsoka season 2, and that'll be a nice compromise if we don't get more Kenobi. But Natalie has been the only one from the original trilogy, that main group, yet to get her kind of renewed moment in the spotlight, get her redemption arc, quote unquote, because Hayden's had it, Ewan's had it, obviously, and we've seen Ahmed Best, and we've even seen Jake Lloyd return to the spotlight recently with that interview, which was really nice to see. Yeah, he's doing all right, and then he still has some love for this franchise, which is, if I went through what he went through, I mean, he's a stronger man than I am, that's for certain. To do that. But Natalie has always been, someone that, she had that great SNL skit a couple of years ago where she was like, say stuff about the fucking prequels, bitch. She very
say something nice about Jar Jar Binks.
So she very clearly still has some love for the franchise, and what I would do again to see the trio back in live action once more, because even though I've loved all the Clone Wars stories and stuff, it'll be different if we actually get to see it, live and in color once more. So,
100%.
Fingers crossed that we get something there.
I think all of us prequel fans, if we see them all together, even if it's just for one episode of Ahsoka season 2, it's probably going to be for us somewhat akin to the moment in Force Awakens when Han and Chewie walk onto the bridge of the Millennium
Oh, yeah.
Falcon and you hear the line, Chewie, we're home. Like, that's just going to be like, there's going to be a lot of people uncontrollably crying.
10 years of that this year, by the way.
I know.
That first trailer is it's coming up on a decade old. The celebration trailer with the Chewie We're Home drop. So that's like, I feel so old just saying that.
Like I remember how it felt when I watched that trailer as well. Like the feeling of like, oh my god, this is new Star Wars. Like, oh, this is so precious. This footage, you know, like just the whole feeling of it, and just to see all the stuff that's come since then. It's kind of like, it's crazy to think that we're like 10 years out from that.
This to me is it's the anniversary year of the two most seminal Star Wars movies for me in terms of my life. The 20th anniversary of Revenge of the Sith was like my first big hype for a Star Wars movie that I've ever experienced, like consciously. Like Phantom Menace came out when I was 1. I knew of Star Wars when Attack of the Clones came out, but I wasn't like fully into it yet. But then Revenge of the Sith was like, oh, here we go. And you can attest, back in the day, it was marketing for that movie was everywhere. It was
all over the place, man.
That we still talk about to this day. And then The Force Awakens, you know, no matter what people want to say about the sequel trilogy now, the matter of fact is it was like a pop culture phenomenon. Like we've seen really only a handful of times since. It was like that whole year pretty much was every little morsel we got leading up to The Force Awakens was like, this was tentpole news. And that opening night is still like a top moment of my entire life. But we're gonna do some things throughout the year for the anniversary of both of those films, for certain, because Revenge of the Sith being 20 makes me feel old enough, but like a decade of The Force Awakens is ridiculous to me. Like that is how. But to move into something that makes me feel younger again, we are going to talk about Skeleton Crew. This was, like I said for episode 4 last week, these were 2 episodes that as soon as they came out, I was like, no, that's my new favorite of the series. It happened with episode 4, it happened with episode 5, and it happened with episode 6. So I just want to talk about just the way that this 5th episode works. The way that they choose to tell this story, having it take place on Lanupa, and like they build it up as like this pirate haven, and it ends up just being like an adult spa, like getaway planet now. Like it could have just not worked at all, but it works so well. So I really got to give them props for that, because it was just, I got such a kick out of this episode, man.
Oh, I can tell you like one main reason why it worked so well. They've ruined it. Like, I don't know why the single that joke of SM-33 wandering around the hotel and bemoaning the lack of piratiness about the place is just it just kept making me laugh, because I was like, this is great. It's like the bit in the Lego movie where the characters all go to Cloud Cuckoo Land, and you just cut to Lego Batman just standing up in the corner with these 2 guys like dancing in his face like a unicorn on one of them, and he goes like, I hate this place. It's like, it's exactly that kind of energy.
And shout out to the director of this episode, Jake Schreier, is I believe how you pronounce it, or Schreier?
Yeah. Who is directing Thunderbolts, I believe, later this year.
So, I mean,
excited to see that.
That's a good endorsement of Thunderbolt. He also did a lot of the limited series Beef that came out a couple years ago, which I have not seen.
I have seen
a lot of good stuff.
Fucking good, man. It is so good. Like it's like peak. It really is peak TV. Ali Wong and is just absolutely hilarious. And
it's Stephen Young, right?
Stephen Young, thank you. Their chemistry is fantastic, and just the amount of comedy and tension that is wrung from that show is incredible. Yeah, fantastic.
They got a lot of great directors for this season, for certain.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, 33. He sold like a whole lot of this episode, like, and especially once they put the restraining bolt on him.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Every time, and he just would get shocked. And it's just like, I feel like that's like the biggest example we've ever seen of like actually seeing the effects of a restraining bolt, especially when you have a droid like SM-33.
L3 would be going apoplectic in this scenario right now. She'd be like, "Droid's rights." Yeah, that whole sequence was like brilliant. And as you said, it could have maybe felt a little bit tired as a gag of like, oh look, there's a whole pirate lair, but it's really just like a swanky hotel. But it's just the combination of SM-33 like bemoaning all of the like gentrified area of Lanupa, plus the genuine tension of wondering whether or not Jod and the kids are going to get found out. Like, and also that, you know, we're jumping ahead obviously, but the gag of the kids all pretending to be these elders and they're just like messing around on the claw. That's hilarious and great setup as well, because we know what that claw is going to do later on. So just really good like storytelling, like masking foreshadowing with like these great little jokes and stuff. Yeah. And again, it leads me into talk about Jod, because the way Jod is like fraying as this episode goes on, like you're seeing him get shorter and shorter with the kids, like really irritated until he eventually just like snaps at them in the hotel room. It's just the way that this series has like gradually portrayed Jod's like transitioning moods with how he treats the children. It's really good, like serialized storytelling.
Absolutely. And you had like a mix of that, of him like just him starting to lose his patience with the kids, and our first signs of, oh, maybe this Jod guy isn't going to be, you know, the redemption arc that we thought, or the scoundrel with the heart of gold that we thought. But then just mixed with like him just with the lay on and just sipping the drinks, and
yeah,
I'm like, oh, I'm the professor,
like dropping credits on the receptionist.
Yeah. All that early stuff was great. And like his reaction when they find out it is Lanupa, like he's like clearly heard of it before. Maybe he's even been there before. Who knows? But we do see one of the scoundrels from Jod's past show up in this episode. Just a peek Star Wars design, which we'll get to. Real quickly, I want to just go back a little bit to the beginning of the episode because I forgot it happened, which was the stuff with the parents again on At-Aten, where you just see Wendell like bumbling around trying to send the message at his desk, and he gets caught by the safety droid.
I really liked that whole scene, and having now that we've got past the finale and really seeing the full kind of scope of what Wendell's actor was kind of doing there, I really get Wendell now as a character, because he kind of represents the way all the adults of At-Aten have been conditioned to behave. Because there's a whole sequence, the whole way they move, the adults, they're all very rigid in their movements. And at first I thought, is that just like down to direction or something? And then I realized, oh, it's because they're all rigidly programmed in a sense. They're all following like this whole system. They're almost akin to droids, and Wendell particularly is almost like kind of robotic in the way that he kind of responds. There's flickers of emotion, which the actor does brilliantly. He's almost childlike, kind of like when he's dealing with like that security droid, and as you said, it's really funny to see him sort of fumble awkwardly to him to like with the droid, like trying to keep the secret there. It's really interesting, like visual storytelling with what they're doing, showing how conditioned these adults are into this like kind of rigid system that is kind of like stifling and kind of represents the kind of stuff that Wim wants to get away from. At the same time, it helps kind of show why Wim would have that kind of desire to just like to get away from that, to the point of recklessly pressing a button he was told not to push. That whole sequence was great.
Yep. And then them just having to come to the realization that they're going to have to go behind the back of the supervisor. Just showing the development for these parents, and like you said, just getting out of that, monotonous programming in a way that they've been through, living on At-Aten. And it's hard to talk about this scene knowing some of the added context we have with the finale of what ends up being the true reveal of the supervisor. But still, it still was nice to every couple episodes cut back to the parents, kind of see what they're doing to get their kids home and try to help in any way we can. And when we get to the kind of relay race, I should say, scene a couple episodes from now with the little like messenger thing, you see the growth that all the parents are going through in these little scenes. And I really enjoyed the way that this series portrayed the cutting back to the parents every couple episodes, because the focus is still on the kids, but it just showed that they're still out there. They're still looking for their kids, and they're doing everything they can to kind of go outside their own comfort zones, kind of like how the kids are going outside their comfort zones by exploring the greater galaxy. I think it just made for great storytelling throughout the entirety of the series. But we do get some more lore dumps surrounding Tak Rennod, the pirate, the big pirate that famously found Ad Atten, that the whole show has kind of been based around. And when Jod comes
very
to that realization,
Captain Flint,
very
inspired.
much so.
Yeah,
So-
like I had big Treasure Island or / Treasure Planet vibes, like through that whole sequence. And again, like watching stuff back, you kind of realize like about Jod, and this is what makes Jod such a fascinating parallel with the kids, is that the way Jod views pirate lore is kind of how Wim views Jedi lore. He's almost romanticized it in his head. Like when you see him like telling the kids about like, Tak Rennod,
the ship is the Onyx Cinder, and they're like, who the fuck cares? Like,
yeah, but he's like this stuff matters to him, and he's regaling them with it. Like he's internalized this whole idea of like pirating as like a vocation, and like he romanticizes it so much to the point of ignoring the kind of like more dangerous aspects of it, as we kind of see in episode 6, which is really interesting. But it makes him a really good foil for Wim in a lot of ways, because Wim is doing the same. His romanticism of the Jedi and his like desire for adventure is a strength in a lot of ways, because it makes him take risks and break out of the very kind of homogenous bubble that Atten is literally encased in. But it also makes him somewhat naive and prone to manipulation. And we get that really interesting scene, I think, in episode 5, where like him and Jod, Wim is starting to feel upset that he misses his parents, and he misses his dad, and he's and Jod like come and sits with him, and this is where he threw me for a bit at the start of the episode, because he gives, rather than giving Wim that kind of like off-brand Jedi advice that where we all see through it and we're like, oh well, that's not really something a Jedi would say.
You're straight up quotes Qui-Gon Jinn.
Yeah, and that threw me in, and that made me think, wait, was he a Jedi? Was he a youngling or something? Like, and I just obviously started speculating at the time, but it's a great bit of referencing because it throws you off. It makes you kind of start to question, oh, so did he have some connection with the Jedi? Because that is a deliberately Jedi thing to say. And he even talks about the attachments as well. Yeah. But in a very kind of like, oh yeah, just better to focus on yourself. It's like the complete opposite of the lesson the Jedi teach. But exactly. I guess you got it half right.
You can like kind of see him like not wanting anything to do with the conversation at first. And
I love that.
He has to.
It's so funny
that your focus determines your reality. It's just a great quote. It's not a quote I think about often from the Phantom Menace, but it is like, it really works for Jod's character, and we get those little morsels of like you said, did he get like, because before this episode, we all just kind of assumed that he was Force sensitive, but he wasn't like actually a Jedi, and he never actually had any trainings, because like you said, a lot of the Jedi quotes that he would spout to the kids to like make him seem like a Jedi, we could just see right through. But this one was like, hold on, that's like actually some like Jedi wisdom there. And it like actually seemed to help Wim. And it was like a really nice scene, which is why Jod is such a more complicated character than just like greedy man wants credits. Like he like, whether or not he admits it, he definitely has some liking to these kids. And it makes his actions way more difficult and way more like complicated. And you see that throughout the duration of these last 4 episodes, as we see more and more of like the unraveling of Jod's character. But you do see that he's not like fully gone. He's not like, it was like something you sent me. It's not like Sid, where Sid is just like, anything to get the money. Like it's just it's different there.
Yeah.
And
There
he's
is
not going to admit it, but like there are definitely some
Yeah.
scenes specifically in the finale, which I won't talk about yet. But in the finale, there's definitely a few scenes where I was like, this man could have just easily gotten rid of them in like 30 seconds, but he didn't. So there's something there. And I think that's definitely something you can build on in future seasons is the continued story of Jad Nanawud, because there's just a lot you can do with this character.
Oh, for sure. I would argue, like, in this era of like this Disney era of Star Wars, he's perhaps one of the most Legends character that we've seen. Really, he feels like he could exist in the kind of books that were being like the kind of Legends books that were being done in the 90s and the early 2000s. Like the idea of this like force sensitive pirate is just like it's such a cool concept, because again it kind of got colors outside the lines of like Jedi and Sith and all of that business. And as you said, it's not like a black and white thing with how he approaches this, like, because he's a dangerous dude, clearly. And as we see at the end of this episode, we start to get a sense of, oh, right, no, he really is like kind of a cutthroat here. But he also has a complicated relationship with the kids, because he's not. And again, this is kind of like a thing to draw parallels with John Watts' other work, because, in John Watts' Spider-Man films, like all three of them, the villains, what characterizes the villains as evil, irredeemably evil, is just showing how merciless they're going to be regarding the kids. Like there's the scene in Homecoming where the Vulture pulls a gun on Peter Parker when he's in the car with him. There's, in Far From Home, Mysterio just does not give a shit about trying to kill like teenagers in order to like continue his like grand ruse over the world. And then obviously you've got the Green Goblin in No Way Home, like who just will happily kill anyone for sadistic pleasure. But again, Jod is a different breed of character here. He's not quite a villain or a hero because he doesn't want to hurt the kids as much as he like gets frustrated by them and eventually double crosses them as he does. He completely refrains from trying to injure them or hurt them. Like the whole time in that scene, he's saying just surrender. He's trying to like find the most non-violent solution, because although he is so clinging to that pirate life, as we see, he doesn't want to hurt the kids. Because like a part of him does feel something for them, and I guess it's because he has that sense of kinship with them, where there's a hint of envy and jealousy there, because they have a very kind of like comfortable life that, as we learn, he never really got. But at the same time, he also understands what it's like to be lonely and to not know
that's a big
when next going to be safe.
Of Jod's characters, that loneliness. He mentions it in the third episode, and just his constant desire for kinship, whether it be with his crew or whether it be with, whether or not he's going to admit it, with the kids. And it's a big theme of his character throughout the show. And I think that's what makes him, with the full series in context, just such a compelling character for me, that I've just been I've come to be a huge fan of. You did mention Legends, though, and I just wanted to real quickly bring up one of his aliases in this episode, that being Dash Zenton, which to me just screams a Dash Rendar to me. Like it just screams, like, let's just try and reference that as much as we can.
Yeah, like all he was missing there was like a pair of oversized shoulder pads, for sure.
Definitely.
Which should we mention like the person who calls him Dash in this episode?
Pokkit.
Pokkit.
What a great character!
What a great character! Like this character should be like the newest glup shit over. But I feel like that character is already gonna accumulate fans. Awesome design, Umbaran, which is really cool. There have always been a cool race of aliens to like draw from, and it's Kelly MacDonald as well.
Kelly MacDonald, the pupils
so
are
awesome,
so cool, and it's crazy that she's now one of the few people that have made the transition from both like Disney animation and Star Wars. Yeah, so that's like, always on. I have a very complicated relationship with Brave. I don't really like that movie that much.
I've never
but,
seen
like,
Brave.
I don't like it. It's like I remember really liking it the first time I saw it. But then when I revisited it again, I was just like, this is just Brother Bear. And I'm not huge on it. But she does have like one of the most distinct voices that there is.
Yeah. She's
And,
very cool.
I also just am looking at her Wikipedia now, and
She's
I
in Harry
forgot that she
Potter
was
as
in
well.
Harry Potter. Yeah, so
The
she's
last one, yeah. She's
got
the
a
Grey
lot of nerd
Lady.
cred. Yeah,
Yeah,
Helena
and she
Ravenclaw, it says.
yeah.
So,
Very like, right at the end there, but she's still got a really like distinctive role, and she's also excellent in the British crime series Line of Duty. She was in the currently final series of that show. Very good drama, incidentally, for anyone who's like interested in like crime shows. Line of Duty, it's all about an anti-corruption unit in the police force. But she's fantastic. And she in this episode she does a really good job of like kind of straddling the line between like being funny, but again also being very tense. Like because there's the whole time there's like the tension of, is she gonna like well we know she's gonna tell on Jod. Sorry, but the whole kind of thing comes. There's a real kind of intensity with like her and Jude Law where like she was clearly burned by him at some point, like whether that was romantically or in the business sense. And it's just, she plays it very well and it just instantly raises the stakes of like, oh crap. Because I wasn't sure at first if they were going to like find a way to pay off the bounty hunting thing. I wondered, oh, will we get like I don't know, like a Forlom or Zucker's cameo or whatever as like someone who pursues the kids for an episode with Jod. But instead it's this character who again illustrates that Jod is like a man of many faces. He can't really settle into an identity. It's why he clings so much to the pirate life, because it allows him to like essentially wear these many different masks of who purport to be someone else, whilst also like not having to open himself up and expose just how vulnerable he is and how lonely he is, which is what makes his relationship with the kids so interesting. Because I think I get the sense that Jod is his actual real name, and all the other names are fake, because I feel like that makes a lot of sense, because it shows how he's having to be vulnerable with the kids in a way that he previously hasn't been able to with anyone else. Certainly not his pirate gang. So it's just I love the whole sequence with Pokkit. A great character. I kind of want her to pop up again and be a bit like Vane. Really, I feel like Kelly MacDonald is too good an actress to like just have in 2 episodes.
Oh yeah, like if she shows up in like Mando and Grogu or something, just in like one scene.
Well, I think we know there's going to be other bounty hunters. There's the rumor that Embo is going to be the villain in that, which is it's not what I was expecting. But hey, I'll be happy to see Embo show up. That dude's a badass.
No, there's definitely a lot of opportunities for her to show up again, and like you said, kind of be like a Vane or a Carson Teva kind of character where she just shows up in a lot of stuff. But that whole scene I really liked, and then her just immediately just ratting out Jod to Brutus, like you saw coming, and then that's when Jod like starts kind of panicking and starts to lose patience with the kids. As it's just contrasted with just Spa Planet, where we just get great visuals like a hut eating one of those little creatures from TLJ.
Not again.
Not again.
Like it's the fact that it's like Alex from Star Wars Explained points out, he's so blasé about it. Like has this happened before then? And if so, like, are you that used to it?
And then also we just get
terrified.
Maybe my favorite visual ever of just the Munes just chilling in the mud baths.
Well, at least we know what Darth Plagueis is up to now.
Exactly. There he is. We didn't. That's the Acolyte season 2 right there.
It's like waiting for the Acolyte season 2 to happen. Like,
God. But as we get further and further into this, like plan of them, like trying to find the lair of Tak Rennod, and we're like, is it gonna exist? But then you see more and more of like the guards trying to stop them, and as they split up, you see we meet just an amazing creature design of was it Cathalops? Is that his name?
It's Cathalops. Yeah, I love that dude.
You think like, you see him as this like menacing creature. It's like, oh my god, like they're screwed, and then just perfect Star Wars subversion. You cut back to the rest of the crew meeting up with them, and they're just telling them the story of their journey.
It's
and
great. It's a great
you can't
gag as well.
trust
Like
that
you
guy.
think, it's all going to be like Cthulhu-esque with all the tentacles and stuff. Like we're in for another Bor Gullet, and then the face appears, and he's just got like a perfect walrus mustache. He looks like the goofiest fella, and you get them like just chilling with Wim, telling him a story about the Jedi. That's this. I love that kind of joke, and he helps them as well. He's a homie. More people should be like Catholips. Catholips
Exactly.
and Brasso, great Star Wars homies.
Yep, and hopefully we get to see Brasso again. Just a couple more months.
Like
But-
Connor said, don't kill him.
Please
don't kill him. Don't kill Bix. Like I accept some other.
Don't put that into the world, Donovan.
Please
Don't do that.
I don't want Bix to die. I want Bix around for as long
I
as
have
is
a
possible.
brand to fulfill here.
Exactly. You've got your brand. I've got mine.
Yeah, you've got Hu Yang and I have Bix, so like we each have our own things we need. But we just get. This is when the episode turns like full of a mixture of like Indiana Jones and the Goonies for me. Of
Oh yeah.
them going through the booby traps, them like having to try to get through the different puzzles. Like it also just felt like a video game level to me.
Yeah.
But in a great way, like as the bounty hunters arrive and they're trying to escape them at the same time. And I loved when they get to like that portion where it's like the acid pool or whatever it was, when they're like, oh, you got to think like a pirate. And it's like, instead of a human sacrifice, what's more important to a pirate is credits. So he's like, do you have any more of those dataries? And I was like, God damn it.
Brilliant.
Like, stop taking my dataries.
Stop taking my money.
In there.
My dad's going to kill me.
He's going to kill him. That's his lunch money. Come on, Jod. What the hell?
I just realized that gag. He's literally taking Wim's lunch money. He's like a proper pirate.
Give me your lunch money.
Give me your lunch money. I need it to pass by this acid.
But when we like get the reveal of Rennod's lair, and it's just straight out of any pirate movie or any like you said, like
even the like ridiculous skull.
Movie. The ridiculous skull. And I want someone to do like an Easter egg breakdown of everything there. We already know that the Ryloth arc is there, which we discussed in the Ryloth arc episode of the Clone Wars on this podcast feed, if you want to go back and listen to that episode. But we know that's there, and there was other various things, including a lightsaber, which of course Wim is just immediately drawn to. It was great that they focused on that. Exactly.
Lightsaber, gimme.
And little did I know, I was like, oh, that's a cool like little shot to show like, oh my god, Wim's finally found one. And then it just kind of changes the course of the entire series from there.
Damn. It's the pause, like when John like starts to realize that he can now turn on the kids. It's so well done that like you can feel the energy change in the room, and you're like, oh yeah, he's actually going to betray the kids now.
When they find the coordinates and Rennod's like log like reveals that the hidden treasure of Ad-Atten is actually that it's the last remaining Old Republic mint. And like you said, you just see that just switch flick in Jod's brain. And it's just like the kids are like trying to talk to him, and he's just kind of standing there. He's like, I invoke my right to challenge the captain. And we're just, oh no.
He's like character arcs don't work on me. Only money.
It's like, oh no, please don't. Like, please just don't.
And it makes that scene where he pulls the knife out of the pirate skeleton, like again foreshadowing, because he uses that same dagger against Fern to try and intimidate Fern into like
just talk
giving
about
up.
How great the foreshadowing is in this show.
It
feels
brilliant.
Like every little detail they will squeeze into an earlier episode that at the time you don't really think is going to be that important ends up paying off a couple episodes later in such a great way. The writing in this series is just top notch, and I'd expect nothing less from John Watts and Christopher Ford. But they are just so great at introducing little things, having them pay off in like the most like ridiculous but also just incredible ways. And like you said, like when we see that little scene in episode 3 of him pulling the knife out, not only is that like kind of a visual representation of the old captain, potentially that being Tak Rennod right there, but also him using that to get Fern to eventually yield, and just him screaming just really just yield, like he's does not want to kill these kids or hurt them, but he needs to be the captain. He needs this ship because that's his only key to Ad-Atten. And you just see him just fully you see the greed consume him, and it's very Long John Silver. Is what it is to me.
And then we get that moment with Wim, bless his little heart, with the lightsaber. Oh,
yeah.
It's like it's great. It's a great kind of subversion for Wim because, like, you know, Wim almost kind of sees himself, even though he doesn't know about Luke Skywalker, he sees himself as that archetype, the person who answers the call to adventure and is just naturally heroic. And he gets the lightsaber and he's like, yeah, right, this is my moment. I'm gonna save Fern. I'm gonna like become the hero that I've always wanted to be. And the lightsaber ignites the runway and it flies out of his hands. It's like it's gut wrenching, and it's the fact that afterwards he has to like run back to where the other kids are and just like cower in front of Jod. It's so sad, and it's such a sad moment for him. But he does at least get the win of like pulling the lever, the quick thinking of like pulling the lever and saving them all. Which was a sort of nice what's the word? A nice kind of like consolation at least.
Yeah. Press the button and it actually helps.
His impulsive, his recklessness actually pays off. Because it was a really good scene, and of course, like that final shot. I won't lie. Force pulling the lightsaber. I was like,
lightsaber igniting it. Like,
oh shit. Where's this gonna go now? Like that was an awesome cliffhanger for sure.
Yeah, no, this episode was great. And like you said, we get the fake out of Wim's like big hero moment. We think it's finally going to happen here, and he does what we all probably, if we were Jedi, would be afraid of, is the first day of like Youngling Academy, like accidentally igniting the saber backwards, and boom, there you go. But
it could have gone worse. At least he didn't have his foot underneath where the lightsaber came out.
Yeah,
that would have been awful.
We could have accidentally gotten a losing hand trope. In the most upsetting way possible, but it also just very nicely like leads to and teases like his actual hero moment that we get in the next episode, and also in the finale. But like when we see him like actually get to save that life and him not realize it as it's happening, and then you get that moment, which is why I think episode 6 is so special to me. But again, this cliffhanger just works so well. Because we're like, oh God, Jod's got a saber now. What the hell is going to happen? And then it works. It's also just, it's so tense and unsettling, but it's also kind of hilarious. Like when you get to the next episode and you just see him just immediately get kidnapped by the pirates, and they immediately just take the lightsaber, and it's just like,
after we get the meme, after we get the perfect Jod meme of him like flipping open the trapdoor and climbing out with all the gold,
the gold. The 33 now, and he's got the gold wrapped around him too.
Yeah, they're all like blinged out. And of course, poor 33 immediately gets stunned. He's not having the best day, really.
He's not having the best day, but it's man, there are so many great things in these episodes. To get to,
I've got to mention Pokkit as well. Sorry, just like putting her arm around it and going, "I'm sorry you had to end this way, Dash." It's just so gloating and fantastic. Like again, she like Kelly MacDonald takes what could have been a really throwaway character and makes her feel very unique to the point where I kind of want her to like show up again. Really, like, you know, if we can get Vane to sort of show up as like a interchangeable pirate henchman, I feel like we should have like some recurring new bounty hunters, and Pokkit's a good candidate for that.
Absolutely. I agree with everything we're saying. I kind of wish that she did stick around for like the pirate raid on Ad-Atten in the next couple of episodes, but she was like you said, it's the definition of like a new Glup Shido character. So I definitely can see someone nominating her for a Glup Madness 2 in a couple months. Stay tuned for that. But fully getting into episode 6. This is really the episode where the kids' friendship is tested and they come out of it like fully as that true group of 4 friends, where in the first couple episodes specifically, they were just 2 distinct groups of friends that just got stuck on this ship together, and Fern would clash repeatedly, and they weren't like, even though they were getting closer, and we have that great moment in episode 4, and we see them at the end of episode 5 together. Episode 6 truly felt like the formation of this is the skeleton crew of the Onyx Cinder. And it worked so well to me. Get just a classic trope of the friends going off in different groups and it being like different than what we're expecting. Women, KB, and then Fern and Neil. But it worked so well. And this is where we have to shout out Bryce Dallas Howard once again, because she simply, except for one episode, does not miss. And it's just been like, she's been a part of so many of my favorite episodes of Star Wars TV. To me, she had the best episode of the Book of Boba Fett. She had some of the best episodes of The Mandalorian. The Heiress, I think, is still my favorite episode of Mando. And Sanctuary is so great. And then this episode of Skeleton Crew. And then not to mention, she was Yaddle in Tales of the Jedi. Like, give her her own show or movie at some point, please. Because I don't think it's a coincidence anymore at this point that every time she directs a Star Wars episode, 99% of the time it's going to be peak. And this was like, in terms of knocking it out of the park with like character moments like episode 4 did, this was right up there for me. She just made these kids' dynamics and their relationships, and it was just such a rewarding episode to watch. And it just had all the whimsy to me. I think I posted on Blue Sky and Twitter after this episode of this, like, had that whimsy and that like feeling of the original trilogy more than very few projects have had since then. Was this episode. Like, it just felt like it felt like I was watching Return of the Jedi again. Like, that's what it felt like to me.
Well, to go build off what you said, I think the reason they've achieved that is that one thing that I think can really be said about Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi in particular is how they mastered this ability at being able to seemingly go off the beaten path. Like, so much of the Empire Strikes Back is taking unexpected detours and like reversals on what you're expecting. Like, so much of that is simply the characters reacting and trying to get away and finding these new situations and dynamics. And even Return of the Jedi is like, once you've got the whole mission with Jabba out of the way, you have this whole kind of like digression onto Endor with the Ewoks, which is a complete like change from what you were kind of expecting, really. And I think Skeleton Crew has that kind of energy there, like you said. Like, the kids are literally reeling from the betrayal from Jod. They're trying to figure out what to do next. There's the whole tension of will they get their shit back, and they literally, and as you said, they literally split off. And it's really interesting to see them reacting and forming these new dynamics. And especially with KB, this was like definitely KB's episode, like, which I was so happy about.
I was so glad.
Because she was definitely the one that seemed the least served by the preceding episodes compared to the other characters. And I was holding out hope of like, I'm hoping that she's the more reserved one because they're planning to like kind of really delve into her character in a later episode. And I was so happy that was the case. Because like, man, I'm not kidding here when I said I got legitimately choked up and a little teary-eyed during her scene with Wim when her servos begin locking up. And again, we talked about how they lay details like in the preceding episodes. Literally in episode 5, they're talking about the steam getting into her bionics. There's the mention that both of her mothers say about her having medical needs. Like, it's all set up and it's paid off really well with the fact that she genuinely cannot move, and it sets up a whole interesting thing with Fern as well. Just the whole thing. I could tangent about it, but it's like, yeah, it's a fantastic
getting to
development
see
of her character.
the moments of Fern and KB's friendship, where like Fern like very clearly like cares about KB a lot, but she doesn't quite understand that like she can't do everything that she used to be able to do.
Yeah,
And I think that's just such a great representation of KB's character, where yes, she is different, and yes, she is unable to do certain things, but she can also do things that the others can't. And that's what makes her so special. And I think this has made it's been one of the best depictions of like characters with disabilities, like in Star Wars.
Oh, I love it. I think
Seen.
I honestly love that this is potentially a message that children will absorb, especially when dealing with kids who have a chronic illness. In that, treating yes, you should treat someone who's got a continuing illness like with the same equal respect that you would treat anyone else. But that doesn't mean you have to pretend that their illness doesn't exist. That you should erase what they can and cannot do, what they are physically able to do, because that can have just as detrimental an effect as not treating them with the respect that they deserve. And it's a really difficult kind of lesson to kind of toe the line with, and I really love that they don't make Fern unsympathetic. You completely get why she doesn't want to delve into that she wants to almost kind of say, no, it's okay, KB will be all right, because she sees herself as being able to look after KB, and if she can just like be there for KB and look after her, then KB will naturally be able to keep up with Fern. So it's a really understandable kind of like blind spot that Fern's kind of walked off into, and it only comes
so well
from her
done.
caring.
Exactly, it's so well done, because having these friends where they were together and they presumably been best friends both before and after KB's accident, and we don't specifically get the details of what happened, but we know that I like that we got so much of an explanation of why she has that visor and the cybernetics and like what goes into them, and like as we see throughout this episode, that scene, like you said, of Wim saving KB's life and her just freezing up and him having to make new I
have to shout out Kiriana Crater, who plays KB, for just the way she kind of is able to communicate just how much KB's body is locking down, like the way her voice is just so like, there's genuine like faintness in her voice when she's like talking to Wim, and it's just like that whole scene where she's just sort of like kneeling on the ground and like trying to instruct Wim like gently of like, this is what you've got to do, and Wim's just like and like her unburdening herself of like the fear she's had of like Fern potentially moving on without her, and that she'll have zero friends again. And here comes the line that genuinely made me like get teary-eyed, is when Wim says, "That's so stupid. Anyway, you could just be friends with Neil and me." And it's just like that melted my heart so much. I was like, oh, that's such a sweet thing to say, and exactly the kind of thing that would like help KB like form this bond with Wim that just wasn't there before. And again, like you said, he saves her life in that scene, and he doesn't even realize it initially. And then you get that lovely moment where she kind of like just steps up and goes, you saved my life, and basically says, "Thanks, Jedi." I love that. That's so good.
It's one of my favorite lines in the entire show. It's like, oh, you probably thought saving someone's life would be a bit more exciting. And it's like, thanks, Jedi.
It's the Yoda lesson. It's the Yoda lesson that Yoda teaches Luke. It tries to teach Luke in Empire Strikes Back. Adventure, excitement. A Jedi craves not these things. The goal of a Jedi, as much as they get into like swashbuckling, fantastic adventures, and they use their lightsabers and they fight people off with a combination of that and the Force. The true aim for a Jedi is to help people, to heal people, to save people, and Wim basically does the most Jedi thing he could possibly do, and that's not standing up to Jod and fighting him off with a lightsaber. It's having the empathy and the quick thinking to save someone's life, who needed his help. That's such a Jedi thing, and I love that they don't like dwell too much on it. They just have that lovely line, "Thanks, Jedi." It's just a great way to like bring Wim's character arc like to the next level and show him that there are other ways to embody Jedi teachings. There are other ways to sort of carry those lessons forward that don't just involve like turning on a lightsaber and blowing things up. Although there's plenty of that.
Plenty of that, exactly. We get to that later in the episode as they're following just the great designs of the trash crabs.
I love those things.
And the big one at the end, the fact that was done by Phil Tippett.
And it's so cool.
I just think that's so cool. And just like the little behind the scenes things of how much they snuck into the design.
I know. Isn't there like a little Millennium Falcon on it?
Yeah, there's a Millennium Falcon. I think there's an astromech droid in there, a stormtrooper. There's a lot of different. They snuck in all the names of the crew that worked on it. I think they snuck it in there in Arbish. I think
that's so good.
That's great. I hope they do a Disney gallery of Skeleton Crew because I don't think we had one for I don't think we had one for the Acolyte. We didn't have one for Andor. But like I have been kind of obsessed with these behind the scenes videos. What almost was my nomination for the archives this week was this video of the 4 kids going to Disneyland and making a droid at Galaxy's Edge.
What? I need to watch that. That's so good.
It's one of my favorite things, man. Like I saw it and I was just smiling from ear to ear. Like I love these kids so much. And also I just want to shout out Ravi Cabot-Conyers for his Instagram post that he made right before the finale came out. Picture of him as a baby in the Star Wars shirt. And just like, I hope this crew gets to come together again soon. I'm like, yes, I hope so. Please. Here's why I feel a little bit more optimistic is yes, we had the exact same thing happen with the Acolyte. But the fact that like they're doing these interviews where they're so openly like, hey, what would you like to do in a season 2? That makes me at least feel like it feels like they would have needed to get approved by Lucasfilm to do these interviews. And that could mean nothing. But like the fact that they've been so open about here's what we would want to do and like not like giving away plot points, but like, yeah, we have ideas for season 2 and like we really hope it gets to happen. I'm hoping we hear a celebration, man. Like I know there was all to talk about the lower viewership, but I put this on Blue Sky and it's like I don't think anyone ever truly expected this show to do like Mando numbers.
No.
So I feel like it not doing like numbers like Andor or the Acolyte did or like Mando did, I don't think that really matters because the reception has been there and it's been strong since the beginning.
And also, this is like kind of a bugbear of mine when it comes to like ratings and stuff. Because with streaming, I always feel like it's a little disingenuous to like start talking about immediate viewing figures, given that like I can see that what that matters for network television because stuff is aired at a specific date at a specific time for you to watch it and absorb it, and then you have to like wait for it to come for it to watch it again. You either have to record it or like wait for it to be shown on a different channel or a later date. With streaming, these episodes are available like 24/7 once they're released. You can watch them whenever you want, and it kind of makes like people's priorities with watching stuff very different because someone might see a show come out and be like, oh, that looks fun. I'll wait to binge it until it's all out because I know I can do that. I know I can access all of these episodes whenever I want. So I'll push this down the line till later. You saw that with the Acolyte in a lot of ways. There were countless posts, even after it was cancelled, of people going, oh, hey, I just finished watching this. I finally caught the Acolyte and watched it. Oh, why did this get cancelled? And it kind of shows why it's a little disingenuous to like kind of talk up low viewing figures with regards to streaming, given how like nebulous that is with the very nature of what streaming is. But I'm totally with you there. I really would love a season 2 for Skeleton Crew. Like the kids have won me over so much. It would be a shame not to see them kind of like integrate into the kind of wider galaxy. And because of the nature of the Mando shows, at the very least, I feel like we could get further appearances from them down the line. If it's not particularly in a sequel to their own show, we could at least see them pop up in like say Mando or maybe other spin-offs. There was, I believe, back around August, I think there was like reports that they were considering doing a spin-off from Skeleton Crew that was like titled Star Wars Pirates, that was going to feature Jod more prominently. So maybe that's still the plan, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, I just hope we get to continue this story in some way. Because as I mentioned last episode, there is the potential to make this like the tentpole Star Wars series on Disney Plus. And it just works perfectly for having this coming of age story and getting to see them just grow up in real time. I think you're sitting on a gold mine here. And I think they know that. And it's just
they should have a holiday special.
Yeah.
Like if there's any Star Wars series that we have watched since like say 2019 that deserves a holiday special, it's Skeleton Crew. Like you could absolutely have like an episode where the kids celebrate Life Day, whether that's on Atatin or somewhere else, and it would totally fit with the vibe of the show.
I mean, the MCU proved that they can make that work with the Guardians, and like so, like why can't they do it here?
I need to zip it because I will go on a tangent about how much I freaking love the Guardians of the Galaxy movies and how I'm so freaking happy that James Gunn is making a Superman movie. Like I will go on a tangent about it, and I cannot because this is a Star Wars podcast, not a DC podcast.
The last thing I'll say in regards to renewal in this episode, at least, is I get Star Wars is different, but like with some of the shows that are getting season 2 in Disney Plus, like Goosebumps, like that got a second season. I don't see anyone talking about that. I
didn't even know there was a Goosebumps series.
Exactly. David Schwimmer's in it. No, that's all I know.
Oh,
so like if that got a second season.
Oh no, I thought that was a movie. Oh shit.
It's a show, yeah.
Oh,
so if that got a second season, if Percy Jackson got a second season, I think we can give Skeleton Crew a second season. And it's just like we just need a win. We need a win because
maybe give Acolyte a second season as well.
That would be great.
It's not too late. It's not too late.
But like for both the MCU and Star Wars, it's felt like I can count the shows on one hand that got a second season that weren't like already planned to get one. Like Mando and Andor were planned to get one from the beginning. With the MCU, it's like in Star Wars, it's like Ahsoka, Loki, that's it.
Yeah,
because like Daredevil Born Again is getting a second season, but I think that was like already in the
part of the plan. Yeah, so, I mean that show did go through like a massive creative overhaul. So who knows? But we are sitting on countless shows that need second seasons. Really, like She-Hulk should have a second season by now. Come on,
there's a
like
lot
where's the Moon Knight second season?
Moon Knight.
I want to see more of Moon Knight.
I know the Marvels was technically Miss Marvel season 2, but like I would like a second season of that.
Mark, when are we getting a second season, Mark? When are we getting a second season? I don't know. What do you think, Khonshu? Tickle his nuts, Mark. I had to sneak the meme in there. I'm sorry.
Oh, my God. But, like, for Star Wars, it's like, all right, Kenobi, no. Book of Boba Fett, no. Acolyte, no, not yet, at least. So it's just like...
Delulu brain is hoping that Ewan potentially coming back for Ahsoka season 2 is going to also be followed. It's like that he will come out onto the stage for Celebration to say, "Oh yeah, I'm doing Ahsoka season 2 and also Kenobi season 2."
Kenobi season.
That would be nice.
I mean, I just feel like you're going to definitely have a Skeleton Crew panel at Celebration Japan. Like you're definitely going to have one. And I just feel like that would be like a great way to be like, all right, yeah, so here we go, we're coming back. But again, just the fact that we don't know what we're getting show-wise besides Andor season 2, like that's the only thing we're getting this year as far as we're aware. And then Ahsoka season 2 is in development, and then after that, it's just like question marks. Come on, guys, just come on, just give us more of this cast because I would love it very much. You know what else I love very much? This little scene on the pirate ship where John is just conning his way or charming his way out of getting executed multiple times, and then
we're all hungry.
Oh, it's great.
It's
and then he
so
starts singing
good.
The pirate shanty. It's just like,
yeah.
Shout out Jude Law too, because apparently he made the call to change it to that on set.
Yeah, like Maggie Lovett, friend of the podcast, I believe, interviewed Bryce Dallas Howard, and she mentioned in the interview that it was Jude Law's idea to do the pirate shanty. It was a really good scene, and again, we've talked about the Long John Silver vibes with Jod. This was another example of that because constantly in both Treasure Island and Treasure Planet, Long John is having to kind of fight off the accusations that he's gone soft, that he doesn't really have what it takes to be a pirate. So he's, again, sort of firmly in that anti-hero kind of vibe of like, I'm not quite a villain, but I'm also definitely not a good guy either. And it's just, it really was very interesting to watch like Jod kind of like have that dynamic with the pirates and just sort of be slowly winning them over, even though he seems so utterly dead. With like, and I love that Brutus is just sitting there, and you can almost feel his energy of like, oh, he's winning them over, isn't he? Oh no, like all this kind of stuff, and I just love that he
the great line is like, oh, Brutus
showman.
He's always made a much better first mate, and it's just
like,
oh,
burn.
I thought we were about to get like a reversal of the first episode where we just see the full-on mutiny back to Jod there, but like he has his moment where it's like, we're all hungry, and he like tells them about Ad-Atten, but Brutus is still just like, all right, we'll see about your Ad-Atten, and but he's still like, yeah, if it's nothing, you're getting thrown out the airlock again. So like he's like still like he's holding on for dear life, but I just love that about Jod, where he can just talk his way out of basically anything.
Yeah,
and we see that here, but. Again, he's just, we talked about him with the pirate lore earlier with the shanty and him just like goading the rest of the pirates like, what's that last line again? And like they all start singing it too.
He's such a showman in that scene, especially the way he flips the Old Republic datary, which I'm kind of like torn on how much of it was like actually Old Republic era now, given what we know later on about the show, but it was really interesting to see him kind of like use that whole enticement, and I loved him mentioning to that like Quarren about opening up like his kelp farm, and it was a kind of nice thing of showing how
R.I.P. we lose him in episode.
He's not getting that farm now.
No.
That was like, again, it's just really good like little character building. That was the first thing I thought when that random pirate seemingly died. I was like, oh, he's not
R.I.P. Glurb. He was a real one.
But again, it really does the world building and really effective character work of giving us these individual pirates and showing them that they have their own sort of desires outside of just being like, cutthroat, bloodthirsty buggers out for credits. It was a really good scene, and it again adds to the danger and also shows that like quicksand that Jod is constantly on, and it's the tragedy that he just doesn't see that he is literally living on quicksand all of his life by choosing this pirate life. It's a new kind of vibe that we've not really seen. It's again very Han Solo in a lot of ways, but where Han Solo doesn't learn the lesson of like, I could do so much better than this. Really, it's interesting to see a character kind of
it's like
occupy
Han,
that
doesn't
space.
have the realization moment at the end of A New Hope, and he just keeps going further and further down the rabbit hole. But I just love, like you said, how we get Glurb of his little moment. We have the one older woman that keeps like kind of like helping Jod out.
Yeah, she keeps coming in clutch to save Jod.
And then there's just Vane just chilling in the background. I thought I'd have
more to do here.
I'm really starting to feel like they were like, all right, so we're going to have you include one of the pirates from Mando just as like a little thing. And they're like, okay, but we're not going to have him do anything.
I joked about it when we started these Skeleton Crew recaps. He is literally Turk from like the Marvel Netflix shows. He just shows up as like an interchangeable henchman. I kind of want him to like show up at some point as like a hired hand for like the Imperial Remnant at some point. Like he wears a stormtrooper helmet. He's like, well, I thought I'd have a better chance with this gig. And then all of his squad mates get shot and he just goes, right, I'm out. And just walks off.
I would find that so funny if every time we see Vane, he's just with a different crew.
Yeah.
And it's like every time it's like, oh, so this is when he's going to be like the big, nope.
Yeah, and he's going to like, it's going to transition from being like Turk in Marvel Netflix to like old Gil from The Simpsons. Ah, shucks, I missed another job again.
Because like they very easily could have just made Brutus like his role be Vane if you wanted to really have that connection. But I love that they were just like, oh well, we made this cool Shastaven, and it's like,
yeah.
all right, so you're the villain now. Like,
It's like you're
Vane
too kind of
chill in the
cool not
background.
to. You're too cool to like not have as like the growly like main person. Really, Vane doesn't really scream pirate leader anyway. Really, he's like he feels
No.
like a Starscream type person, someone who would only be like in charge for like 5 seconds before immediately having his head blown off by like the real pirate.
Yep.
Can
if
I
we
also,
want to
like, go back
go ahead.
quickly to the crab as well? Because again, you mentioned about
I
that
was going to
whole
go back to it.
sequence of like how excellent. You mentioned how it was stop motion. I really hope that we get more kind of instances of this in Star Wars, and that this isn't just a one-off. Because the work that Phil Tippett and his team did on this creature was amazing. Like, you actually almost wouldn't tell that it was stop motion at points because of how smooth it moved and everything. But it also integrated so well with the environment, really. And I kind of want to see a little bit more of that, because stop motion, we underestimate how tangible it can make things. Like, so many of the creatures in the original trilogy have that kind of tangible effect because they are made out of real materials. And obviously people love to kind of like clown on CGI a lot, oftentimes like green screen and like motion capture and CGI creatures. I'm obviously someone who like isn't really very much bothered about that. I love a good like elaborate CG creature design. But I also love when you're able to realize stuff like through prosthetics and like practical means, because it helps kind of like distinguish a lot of these kind of creatures and make them feel more tangible. And the crab was just a really great illustration of that. And the whole sequence of them like having to escape with like Neil and Fern literally hanging on to the speeders trying to tow the ship away. I was genuinely worried that the Onyx Cinder was going to be destroyed because of how unpredictable things had been.
I love Wim's line of like, why am I always wrong about who the bad guy or who the good guy
I
is?
love that. He's becoming self-aware. He's self-actualizing. We love to see a self-actualizer.
It's like the crabs were like the reverse of the Nodi from
Yeah.
Ahsoka, where it's like, oh yeah, here's these like lovable crab creatures, and then here it's like, nope, they're gonna eat you.
And again, it's Wim using a very kind of Star Wars lesson of like, oh yeah, the little cute guys are gonna actually be really helpful and help us out here, and they turn out to not be very cute and helpful. They just lure them there for food, that kind of thing. But that also leads to the very excellent sequence with the trash compactor. I can't believe we got a trash compactor scene that almost rivaled the one from Toy Story 3. Which I still have the emotional scars from that.
I don't want to talk about. I don't want to start crying. I just real quickly want to swing back to their reunion where they have the big group hug.
I
wanted to also real quickly talk about how when Fern and Neil were climbing, and you kind of start to see Fern's like realization that not everyone can do what she does because she's climbing, like, and then Neil's struggling. And then we cut back and like they have like the rope, and it was just like, I loved every single thing that they did with the kids in this episode. And you have the Fern going to hug KB, and then Wim and Neil join in, and it's like that's like our moment of like these kids are finally one big group together. And then you have that great shot of them like looking over at the trash compactor as it's happening, and it's just so great.
And again, it's such a tense sequence as well.
Oh, yeah. I was super tense, but it was so Star Wars in every way, because we have this tense, like, are they going to make it out of there? And as the armor of the Onyx Cinder just further just derails and explodes, and we get to see the true form of the ship.
So good.
Looks so good.
That.
Flies away. It's just like, oh my god! This is fucking Star Wars, man.
Because I remember thinking about the Onyx Cinder, because it was like I remember watching the first episodes of the show and going, I know the whole point is to kind of go for a kind of grungy, beaten down ship like the Millennium Falcon, but I kind of wasn't feeling the design the way I have prior Star Wars ships. There's something about it just felt kind of like off to me, and when it molted out of that armor and the real ship revealed itself, I was like, I was completely won over, and I was like, this is a great Star Wars ship design.
Can
and
we
I
real
love
quickly just swing back to the 5th episode where it like arrives on Lanupa and the
Oh,
one
yeah.
lady's just like, it's literally just like leaking shit. Parts are falling off of it.
Yeah, it's just great. It's like the bit in Clone Wars season 5 where Obi-Wan pilots the Twilight, and we haven't seen the Twilight in a while, so it's completely run down, and the landing ramp won't even lower. So Obi-Wan has to like stamp on it to get it to lower, and he's like, "Oh, my friend loaned me this." It's like, and Obi-Wan's in a really personal mission here involving like the love of his life, and Anakin's like, "Yeah, sure, take my my piece of shit like starship to help you out here." That's totally not going to like impede your efforts at all.
No,
Obi-Wan.
definitely not.
But that sequence was great, and I loved it. It paid off a great thing of like, Fern comes full circle in that moment where,
can't press that button.
She has to press the button, and I love that again. It does a trope that we've seen a bunch of times and stuff. Oh, don't push that button, or only push that button in a special emergency. And to see her kind of like just go, screw it, I'm gonna throw caution to the wind, and I'm gonna take this risk because my friends are worth it. It was really great to see, and it preceded a great moment of all the kids working together, like fitting into all these different roles now. Like Neil piloting the ship, KB like going and dealing with like the engines, Wim on the blaster turret, and Fern being the co-pilot. It was just great to see them kind of like come together. And we mentioned in our like our first recap that it was the whole sequence was so similar in a good way to the bit in The Force Awakens where Rey and Finn get on board the Millennium Falcon. I still remember. I have so many sense memories of watching The Force Awakens for the first time, and that whole sequence of, what about that one? That one's garbage. And then the quad jumper blows up, and Rey's like, the garbage will do, and they turn. Because even before, it's so good. Like even before the quad jumper blew up, and Rey said that one's garbage. I feel like we all kind of knew. Oh God, that's the Millennium Falcon, isn't it? They're going to turn, and the Millennium Falcon's going to be there. And that whole sequence was great. It was so like it had that same kind of energy here, where like the kids don't fully know how to pilot the ship, so the ship it actually flies around a bit jankily, like it scrapes on the ground, just kind of like the Millennium Falcon does when it like smashes into that kind of like signpost, and also like drags on the sand later on. It's just got some of that kind of like rough around the edges energy that's just really
and I love
kind of
that
like
it
fun.
was Fern that pressed the button.
Yeah,
he gave him so much shit for it. So for her to be the one that makes that decision to like have that risk and for it to pay off that way works so well.
And it's going to pay off later as well with the finale, which is
my God, when she like comes to Wim's aid and like starts like great again. We'll talk about it when we get to that episode. But
this show does serialized storytelling so freaking well, man. It really does.
It's just tremendous. And again, shout out Bryce for just being like consistently on her game here. And if you're gonna give someone a film at some point, I mean, there are very few people that I would entrust more than her. Like I just feel like she's earned it at this point. She's at least earned showrunner status on one of the shows coming up.
She has if I can like single out any one thing that I think makes Bryce Dallas Howard such a good director of Star Wars television, or at least just Star Wars in general, she is a real knack for finding the intimate moments and really filling them with heart. Whether that's Frog Lady reuniting with her husband, whether it's the scene with like here we get with KB and Wim, or with Fern sort of like helping Neil to like climb up the cliff, and even in the episode of like the Return of the Mandalorian in Book of Boba Fett, when you're seeing the kind of vulnerability like from Din when he's on that like sort of like civilian cruiser, and he's just like holding the chain shirt and thinking of Grogu. And you know, even from her first episode, she's been so good at this. Like all the stuff with Omera and Din, you know, just like connecting through that episode. She's so good at like taking those moments and like filling these seemingly kind of throwaway characters, like just filling them up with heart and real kind of like dimensionality. So yeah, I could not agree with you more on that. I really would love to see Bryce get like her own series or even potentially a movie, you know, because I feel like she's got the visual chops for it.
Oh no, definitely. Everything that she's done for the most part has been a home run. And I just think like kind of how Deborah Chow did such a great job with Mandalorian season 1, and they were like, okay, you're gonna direct all of Kenobi.
Yeah,
I would love them.
And then she gave us the rematch of the century, and I'm forever grateful for how she chose to direct the "I'm sorry, Anakin" for all of its sequence. Like,
I would just love for her to have a similar opportunity with the show that we don't know about just yet, and I just think she'd knock it out of the park. But these 3 episodes, these 2 episodes, getting ahead of myself here, but these 2 episodes I just thought were so great. And it what any good show should do is just each episode you go through and be like, all right, that was my favorite. And then you watch the next episode and you're like, oh, well, no, now that one's my new favorite. And I just feel like Skeleton Crew, just this mid to late portion, just it kept doing that every single week for me, and I am just so grateful that this show exists and we have this show and we've finally been able to talk about it. And I cannot wait to discuss the last 2 episodes next time we're here, because that is going to be fun. Before we get out of here, any last thoughts on these 2 episodes before we call it a day?
Mainly that these I think these 2 episodes in particular really kind of like cemented my enjoyment of the series. I was kind of like tentatively enjoying it, I suppose, like for the first 4 episodes, and then these 2 episodes came out and I was like, yeah, no, I really like this show. I really like where it's going. I really feel for these kids now. I've really kind of like connected with them. I think episode 6 is on balance my favorite of the whole series so far. Well, not so far, just fully now that we have the finale to watch. I think Bryce Dallas Howard just really knocked it out of the park. But I also love episode 5 for like how much it is able to like turn the whole series on its head by the end of the episode, and the character work it does each of these episodes do with the children and with Jod as well is superb. It cements them all as like compelling characters that you genuinely would want to follow into further adventures, you know, should we get the opportunity. So yeah, great episodes.
Absolutely. I have nothing but good things to say about these episodes, and if you need something to get your mind off of things during these crazy times that we're in right now, I just checked and there's literally like 5 pages of executive orders that have just been signed. So the world fucking sucks right now. It's not great. But if you need something to get your mind off things and just like truly feel happy and need something to escape to, if you haven't watched Skeleton Crew yet, I would wondering why you're an hour and a half into this episode. But 2,
so we listen to these 2 dudes talk about it for like an hour and a half. I guess I might give it a go now.
Middle of the series. Yeah, I'll watch it.
Hope we convinced you to give it a go.
But also just like I would definitely watch it, or just give it another watch if you've already seen it, because it's something we need right now. Like I've said repeatedly, it's something that Star Wars fans in this community has needed. An absolute win of a series and of a time like this. And I just hope we get more soon. So that'll do it for this episode of For the Republic. Like I said, hopefully we could be a nice little distraction while the world is burning right now. But we'll be here. We'll be here talking Star Wars. We'll be here being a community that we have strived to build over these last 3 years, and we're not stopping anytime soon. So thank you to everyone that's stuck with us, and we're going to keep doing this because we love it. I also just I had to add it on last episode because we forgot to do it, but for everyone that's still suffering in the wildfires in California. We wish everyone our best. We wish our best regards to everyone there, and we will again be linking in the description to resources that can help out those affected by the wildfires right now. And we just hope everyone's doing okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a horrific thing for people to go through, and yeah, like you said, hoping that people are like getting by as best as they can, and as you said, there's the donation link below. Yeah.
Yep. So Don, where can everyone find you as we head out here today?
So you can find me on TikTok at Donovan McComish. Where like
thought it was gone for a second.
We thought it was gone, but hey, I guess it wasn't just a bit of polite political theater just to give like Mr. Orange President an easy win. But yeah, it's back over in America, and if you're still planning on using TikTok and not like thoroughly repulsed by all of the political bootlicking, you can follow me there at Donovan McComish and the pod, and please follow Andrew as well because he's awesome. You can follow me on Twitter at Donovan Mead, also Instagram at Donovan underscore McComish. I have the same handle for Threads. And also Blue Sky at donovanmccomish.bsky.social, where, hopefully we post some marginally more chill things, given that channel isn't run by like a raging Nazi.
Literally.
I also, yeah,
we
literally.
Have photographic proof for.
We have photographic proof now. It's a valid criticism. Oh no, it's a Roman. Don't you know, Andrew? It's a Roman salute. Oh, goddamn fascists. Since we're talking about Lucasfilm here, I think a good Lucasfilm protagonist to emulate right now is Indiana Jones. Let's show some indie love on the social medias if you can. But
I've seen so many screen grabs of him just punching Nazis, and I'm like, same, Indy, same.
It's like it's an important lesson, Andrew. You're never too old to be reminded that you should always punch a Nazi in the face. But you can also read a short story that I wrote because Andrew and I are both members of SWEF, Star Wars Editor Fiction. We're taking a bit of a hiatus now, like for an extended period of time, but we'll hopefully be back eventually. I've written one story for SWEF called Star Wars Scars of War that came out in 2022. It stars a clone trooper called Blister who deserted the Republic after Order 66 and has been hiding out from the Empire in the Outer Rim world of Kivo. And 5 years after the events of Revenge of the Sith, he encounters a Jedi survivor named Shar Kun, and the rest of the story follows them unpacking their shared trauma over that event. So if you like Star Wars and pain, maybe give it a read. It was a lot of fun to write.
Absolutely. As for myself, you can find me on all socials at Starlight Andrew, Twitter, sadly, Instagram, TikTok now, I guess. I guess we're not going anywhere. We'll see. And then starlightandrew.bsky.social on Blue Sky, where I will probably be posting most of my stuff throughout the next week, just because I don't want to deal with the shit over on that other one right now.
Incidentally, Blue Sky, can we please have a poll option in the post, please? So we can
do the archives on Blue Sky as well, because I did do some polls that I'm going to feature the results for in the finale that aren't the Jedi archives. It's related to something else, but I did those on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. So if we can have one more place to do our polls, that would be awesome. As for the pod itself, speaking of that, you can follow the pod on Twitter at For the Repub Pod. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at For the Republic Pod. We just posted another of Don's awesome edits talking about the I'm a Gundai scene. That's done really well so far, so thank you for helping that. I was like, what a great way to go out with one of our best edits we've done in a while in terms of views. And then, like, that was 15 hours, and then it was bad. So it's just like,
couldn't even make it 24.
I love publicity stunts. It's great. And then Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, all at For the Republic Podcast. Check us out there. Help us get closer to our 100 sub goal over on YouTube, where we will have some fun stuff planned once we hit that goal. And as always, thank you guys for joining us. We will be back here next for our final Skeleton Crew discussion, talking about episodes 7 and 8. And then after that, we will have our yearly best of 2024 episode, where we will go over our favorite stories in the Star Wars galaxy that released in the last year. So look forward to that coming soon.
Hopefully, I'll have finished this by then.
We'll see for me too. It's what I'm reading right now. So look forward to that. But until next time, may the Force be with you always.